I'm on Facebook Live. I've never been on Facebook Live before. Um, Charlie and Celio were also supposed to be here with me, but since Facebook Live isn't working, we are all on Zoom, which the information is on my Facebook page. So feel free to check that out and come see us all on Zoom. But for now, you all will see me on Facebook Live, and hopefully hear the other side of this conversation too if you stay there. Okay, cool. So are we ready to start? I'm so excited. How are you doing, Charlie?
I'm just peachy keen today. Yes.
Yeah, you're feeling refreshed?
Yeah, today's a good day. Scott and I did a late night yoga class in the second bedroom. It's become like what we do every night. We have a routine and it's good.
Oh, nice. What kind of yoga is it?
We found this woman on YouTube named Sarah Beth, and I think we're her #1 fans now, and we've done like every yoga video she's ever made.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, but it's really fun. We light a bunch of candles and incense, and it's really nice.
Oh, it's soothing, huh?
Yeah.
Especially at nighttime.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This is like definitely something playful that I was inspired to do after, and if everybody on could mute their screens, that would be great, except for Charlie. After a talk I did last week with Breon Davis, who's a friend of mine. He's an actor, director, teacher, really cutting edge thinker. And we just had this really powerful conversation about what this time is like and how we're spending our time right now. We got into all kinds of time travel and spirituality and wildness. And so it just inspired me to think like there is a lot to talk about right now. Like the conversations with friends and collaborators. It's really deep right now, it feels like.
Yeah.
And so artists are great channels for kind of breaking it down, you know? And so I had this theme come to mind in a dream that's called Light Up from the Inside, or Light Up Inside, which is metaphorical, but also not, because it's lighting up from the inside of our being, like what literally lights you up. But then also, if we're blessed enough to have a home, where we're inside our homes right now, how are we lighting up our space and lighting up during this time? So can you talk to me a little bit about lighting up on the inside for you and what that means to you? I see you as a light, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just to give a little background, Charlie came and sang at an opening in Venice, Italy that I had, where I curated an exhibit called Humanizing the Icon in honor of Mary Pickford and old Hollywood and new Hollywood. And I was really blown away by your aura and your voice.
Thank you.
So light up inside. What's it mean to you, girl?
Well, so I feel like I'm just completely in my element right now in this quarantine, which seems like kind of a weird, messed up thing to say, because this is essentially a tragedy for a lot of people. And when my heart's not heavy, feeling like the sadness of what a lot of people are probably going through right now, I feel like this is the most refreshing, awesome experience of my life. I think it's doing so many things for us as a society. Also, I don't know enough about this to speak on it. You probably know more, but Saturn is entering into Aquarius, which is like hasn't happened in 30 years. And that happened in late March. And it's so parallel with what's happening because of the virus. Anyways, okay, let's see. Lighting up on the inside. I'm a natural. I think just being isolated right now is so powerful for me. I love it. I love just listening to the voice in my head, getting to spend quality time with my boyfriend, and being creative. And then I think there's also this pressure that artists put on themselves right now, where it's like, am I being as creative or as productive as I should? Because this is essentially what all artists want so desperately, is just time. Like that's usually most of our excuse for why we're not further ahead, is like, I didn't have time to learn it or whatever. And this is that time, and yet I think people are experiencing a lot of heaviness because of the energy, and so that doesn't always create like a system that's very creative. But all that said, this is the lightness that I have found is in nature. Every day, Scott and I find a new secluded mountain to climb up, and just feeling the sun on our face and running and playing and playing tag and coming home and cooking with each other instead of going and buying a $50 dinner, you know, and then playing guitar and writing together and joking together and staying up late. I don't know. It's such a powerful time. So.
And how is your, oh yeah, go ahead.
So I had this epiphany last night. It's going to be so hard.
I love epiphanies.
It's going to be really hard to say. Okay. So, this sounds really ridiculous, but I used to spend so much money on like my nails or all these different things that I've obviously let my nails grow out and I cut them all off. And I started realizing last night in the shower that I used to live a very expensive life with all these things that I don't need them. And I'm learning to do them on my own at home. And so Scott and I were talking, and I was realizing that after this quarantine, our expenses in life might be so much lower. Like, we're not going to spend all the money we used to on all these different things, but at the same time, our income will be lower. Like, the economy has been hit. And so I think what it's done is it's created like this situation where we need less and we get less. But what we get more of is time. Like, we have more time with the people that matter. I don't know if that makes sense. It's
it makes a lot of sense. It's like a beautiful time to be introspective and evaluate where there's excess, and how do we just trim the fat and let it go. Are we still on?
Yeah, but somebody's screen took over.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just keep talking. Okay. And anyone on Facebook that wants to join us on Zoom, this is where you can see all of us.
We're visiting somebody's screen.
Yeah. Oh, I need to introduce Celio too. I'm ready for that intro. Yeah, I don't know. Someone's screen definitely took over, and we see everything that they're doing. Okay. So Celio, I'm glad we waited till we had more people on. This is really exciting. Is an artist that I met at an Art of Elysium dinner a while ago in LA. And he he channels, he transforms energy into drawings with a fountain pen. And to me, it's so multi-dimensional and has so much depth, and is kind of shocking that it's just a pen. And he did a piece for Mary Pickford and for me for an opening. And he is actually going to transform the vibration of this talk into an original piece of art.
Wow.
And we talked about hair. My hair is like taking over during quarantine. Okay, so as an artist, would you say you're a singer, songwriter, performer, photographer? I mean, you do so many things.
Thanks. Yeah.
Are you doing them all right now?
Yes, I really am. I've never felt so inspired and so creative and so excited. So obviously I'm limited with what I can do, but it's really cool because it's teaching me. I started learning how to record myself at home, which is something I never used to do. I always would work with producers. And I'm doing a lot of video stuff with Scott. It's, of course, we're just isolated, the both of us, but we go out and shoot a lot of really cool stuff just in the wilderness or wherever we can find. And then I started a photography project that I'm really excited about.
Yes.
It's really cool. It's called Connecting in Quarantine.
Connecting in Quarantine. Okay.
Yeah. And
I
so
had it as creative in quarantine.
It's kind of both, but yeah, it started because I really wanted to see my parents, but I know that I can't. So I just asked them to stand at their window and let me just say hi, and I took their portrait. And I loved it.
Everyone make sure they're muted. Sorry for interrupting, Charlie.
No worries.
Okay, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, so
So your parents.
I took my parents' portrait, and it was really beautiful. And so I started this kind of thing with Scott where we're going around to our closest friends and family, and also artists that we really love, to take their portrait through their window, as to not break any social distancing rules. But the photos that we've gotten are so beautiful and so powerful. And I think that right now it's our job as artists to be documenting this experience, because in 100 years, it will be our art that tells the story of what we're living through. We're living through the most phenomenally unique time. This is like unprecedented. And it's our responsibility to find a way to document it through our own lens. And so this photography project has been my lifesaver. I see a lot of people put on Instagram that they're like bored. I'm so not bored. Like,
yeah,
I'm so loving this.
Yeah, like we talked about the other day, because you actually came and took my picture.
Yeah.
It's a very potent time. It's definitely a time where there's a lot of depth. Like you feel people's fears and their vulnerability and their natural beauty really coming to the surface. And to be able to capture that in any form is so powerful, because as an artist, you're obviously, you can feel so much regardless of physical proximity. And a lot of people that don't consider themselves artists right now are tapping into those sensitivities. I mean, we are all artists in a way, in the way that we create our perceptions and design our realities and construct our lives. Like we are all creating every single day. And I think you bring up a great point that we can go into that, whether we operate as an artist in our daily life or not. This is a time to really just explore and be playful, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on like the larger picture of this situation. This is sort of on an evolutionary scale, like why this might be happening. I think that humans and our advancement with technology got to obviously a place where we were destructing the planet, you know, and we're slowly becoming more of robots than humans. That was just kind of where we were going with our lives. And this whole thing boomeranged us back, in my opinion, like 50 years. Like we're kind of back in like the 1960s, 1950s of like, we're cooking at home, we're spending quality time, we're drawing, we're like learning instruments, we're reading books. I think that we got to a point where our attention spans, for me, my attention span was so limited, I couldn't even watch a full television show without checking my Instagram. And then also, we're doing so many things, we forgot how to focus. And I feel like Mother Earth or evolution or something kind of did this to sort of wipe away all the things that were medicating for us, and really force us to like rediscover our existence as human beings, not as like robots or technologically advanced specimens, but genuinely as just like human beings that can die really easily. I think we forgot how easy we can die. Created so many ways to avoid it, and then like this virus comes in, and it's something that doesn't discriminate about, it doesn't matter how rich or how powerful or how anything you are. And so I think it's like, it's a really scary time, but like you said, it's also a really potent, amazing evolutionary time.
So are you writing songs?
Yeah, so I am writing, but I also am experiencing a little bit of a block. And I had a really cool moment yesterday where I have sort of a splotchy relationship with God. It's not super defined for me. And it's something I've been looking more into and trying to understand better, but I still don't have a definitive God that I pray or speak to. But I'm open to the possibility that there is one. And yesterday I spent 5 hours sitting on the couch with my guitar, and like there was nothing in me. There really was nothing coming out. And I had this moment where I looked up and I was just like, God, use me. Like I want to be a vessel I want to empower other people. And Scott always says to me, when your art becomes about something bigger than you is when it'll actually resonate with people. more than it has. And I still don't have massive clarity on that concept, but it's something that yesterday I think I had a little breakthrough, because yeah, the art wasn't happening for me on that front. It is on the photo front. Like, I sit here and I just like, oh my God, looking at the photos I took of you, it makes me happy for days.
Oh yeah, that's so powerful.
Really cool.
Yeah, I guess maybe when Scott's talking about like when your art is bigger than you, that's when it like really reverberates, you know. But I mean, it does no matter what. But maybe is he talking about ego? Like the sort of like those moments where that dissolves and you kind of get like lost in the creative process, like you're not defined anymore. It's like just coming through you, you know?
Yeah, probably. And I think there was a really awesome TED Talk by the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, where she talks about how artists are just vessels. And it's like the universe or God sending these like little creative bouts of genius. And it's up to us to catch them, kind of. And it's that idea that she said, like, you're driving in the car and suddenly you get this idea and you're like, no, stay, because you can't stop and write it down. But it's that idea that as artists, we're just vessels, and God or the universe or whatever it is that you believe sends down these like moments of genius, and we either catch it or it passes by and then it lands to the next person. It's not that it disappears. It's that like someone else catches it.
So beautiful.
So sometimes when I'm writing music, I do notice that I'm like, that didn't come from me. There's no way. I can't even, I sometimes listen back to the whole voice recording to understand, like, oh, how did that melody or that, like, that lyric phrase even come? And it really wasn't from my brain alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. And that's brings me to my next topic, which is something I'm exploring creatively as an artist and filmmaker. And we're calling it Humanizing the Icon, which is kind of started with that exhibit that you came and performed at, this exploration of, you know, finding the human inside the icon and the icon inside the human.
Yeah.
What is icon to you, and how do you sort of separate you as Charlie or you as this girl living your life with you as the performer or as the medium or as the artist? Like, do you see them as different roles?
Oh, that's interesting.
But what is icon to you first?
Well, I think icon's actually, for some reason, a hilarious word to me right now, because every time Scott does something good at the house, he says that he should receive an icon award. He's like, I'm the icon. But icon to me is basically just a human that we in our head have decided is larger than life. So
can you pause for 1 second?
Sure.
Okay, people on Facebook are asking, sorry. So this is Charlie Taylor. She is a singer, songwriter, staying in Venice where I had an opening. And if you look at my Facebook page, you can find the Zoom information and you can come on Zoom and you can see her as well. And Celio, the artist, who's channeling this conversation into a live talk. It's supposed to be on Facebook Live. Facebook Live isn't working. So I'll stay on for a little bit longer, but feel free to join on Zoom. Okay, thank you. Okay, so icon award to Scott.
Yes. Yeah, whenever he cooks a dinner, he's like, oh, I'm the IA icon award, something like this. No, but icon is just, I think it's just a human that we view as larger than life. They're not like a human necessarily. They're and I think every time you meet someone who's famous, you kind of have that like moment where you forget that they're a human. And then like after the first 10 minutes of talking to them, it's almost like this bizarre revelation. You're like, oh my God, you're just like me. Like, as if perhaps you weren't. But I don't identify as an icon by any stretch. And even when I'm performing, I don't necessarily feel a disconnect. The thing about me is I'm wildly candid, and so it's sort of like it's pretty consistent. Like if you came to my house, I would be the same person as you would see on stage through the door. But But then at the same time, you start, as an artist, you start doing things where your platform becomes slightly larger, and then you realize it's actually your responsibility not to necessarily focus on your art, but to focus on like how your art is affecting other people.
Mm-hmm.
And even for me on a small scale, like when I get messages from people out there who are non-singers, who are like singing my songs in private, and they send me like a cover of them singing it, and those are words and melodies that didn't exist before the night that I wrote them, and now some other human being in the world is singing those words. It's like, that gives me so many chills, and that to me feels like as iconic as anything, you know.
So it's the song. Yeah, like that's something that I've been exploring, is if everybody besides Charlie could mute their screen, that would be amazing, Amy. Thank you. Yeah, like what are we seeking when we look to the icon? I kind of think, is love the icon? Is connection the icon? Are we putting people up on pedestals in order to connect in a way that we don't necessarily realize we carry that within? How do we do the dance between leadership and admiration and something that's actually dangerous and destructive? Because there is a separation between icon and the person in the way that we've constructed it as a collective.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ,
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Who I heard was really, I heard from someone that knew him that he was really just a hippie who learned how to meditate in India.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody.
Well, okay, that's interesting. Now, okay, what if the reason that we create icon, we make somebody an icon, is actually a defense mechanism to believe that there's something larger than our life as it is. So we see a celebrity or an artist or someone that we idolize, and it's a weird thing as humans that we want to believe there's something larger on earth than like what we're living. But the reality is that there's not. Like, I don't know, I've noticed that recently with Scott, is in moments where I just feel truly, purely happy, and like no amount of fame or money or I don't know, anything really, no platform for my art would ever equate to this just like intimate moment of genuine happiness and understanding. And so I think in a weird way, we idolize people to distract ourselves from our own, like our own ecosystem of our life.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a weird thought, but
no, it's not weird at all. I think like,
I don't know. I've met a lot of people that were, to me, just like so famous it was like an overwhelming moment to meet them, and only in the first 5-10 minutes, an hour, I realized, I'm like, you're almost let down. Like you're like, oh, that's it. And not that they're not amazing, just that you're like, oh, that's it. I expected something otherworldly or like mystical, but you're just a human being.
mm-hmm.
And you would think that that would only have to happen to somebody once for them to like make that connection, and not have that happen each time you then meet your icons. But it does happen each time. I do believe there's like a child in all of us that wants to believe like the Disney princess, and it's this magical, exciting distraction from our otherwise mundane existence. But our existence isn't mundane. That's
no. Yeah. So that's like, yeah, I think there's a way to turn that on its head, to where, again, it's like, okay, it's not fame, right? That's really the icon. There's like an aura or a feeling. And it's not always positive either. There's like the iconic perpetrator, the iconic virus at this stage. Like it's iconic is something, like you said, larger than life.
Right.
but it's not, right? It's of life. And that's what you're saying, is that there's nothing larger than life.
Oh, I have an idea. Okay. So Jen, let's say you're in my life. They're separate. We only have a couple of connecting common denominators. So I have this whole ecosystem that I live in, and you have yours. But then there's somebody like Madonna, who you and I both can say we know and probably love and think is great or whatever. And so perhaps we idolize or we create an icon because that is our way of connecting with the larger, like with everyone, is that these few people that stand out are people that everyone can see. The way that if you're across the world from your loved one, sometimes you go outside to look at the moon, because that's the one thing that you both can see at the same time is the moon. And so maybe icons are actually just pillars to connect all the millions of people that would otherwise have no interaction with each other.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Like a common thread.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of archetypes or mythology or something. Which again, I just think we all embody these things. I'm like interested in discovering the icon within, you know, which I guess is like a topic around self-worth and how do you like worship yourself and love yourself in the way that you would look up to somebody else and still appreciate someone's art without putting them on a pedestal, you know?
Yeah, totally.
I find it's like maybe divisive, actually. And I'm talking about religious and pop culture and acts, you know, acts of horrific things that are iconic, and people do them for a variety of reasons, you know. It's not just a being, but it's also anyway, that's like a whole rabbit hole.
Wait, Jen, are you gonna tell us anything about the movie that you're making?
Not much. I mean, there was a little announcement in Variety yesterday just explaining that we are following up our Mary Pickford journey and project with a hybrid documentary called Humanizing the Icon, which is going to involve a narrative and documentary footage. And it's this sort of like breaking the wall, time collapsing exploration that is pretty fun. So yeah, I've been obsessed with this like topic of how we curate our identity, how we co-create our reality since I was a kid, you know, from like the scientific plane to the spiritual to the artistic. It's just it fascinates me. But I love your perspective. It's so interesting too.
Really?
Yeah, like icons as pillars, you know, or just the way that you go from seeing someone as iconic and then the moment they become human in your eyes. It's like that click that happens.
Yeah, and then you think of somebody like, or Jesus Christ, you know, and he's such an icon for so many millions of people, and there's almost like a light energy around like his very name. If you spell it out, your fingers are almost like careful. But perhaps it's, if you believe in energy, I believe so much in energy, that it may not necessarily be about like him as an entity or as a human, but the fact that so many millions of human beings have like such a tethered energy string to that concept. And like you sent us this mass meditation the other night. Okay, right? You sent me a link to do this mass meditation, and a bunch of people did it, hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world. And the very next day, is it called the senograph? This is something that shows the energy waves of Earth. So there was like mathematical data, like evidence to suggest that meditation actually affected the energy waves in Earth's core. So if you just think about that from a simple level, all the people in the world, their energy, their construct, their passion for Jesus Christ, that connects all of us on such an energetic level. So yeah, in fact, whether he is anything, he's the pillar to all of these people.
Right. So what I'm obsessed with is, what is that trait? What is it that he represents, right?
Yeah, I think
it's we only can see what we reflect. So we have within us what he has, like what we're drawn to.
Right.
So in this age of social media likes and self-exploitation in so many ways, are we able to sort of, with this type of conversation, create a new paradigm where it is about going within as much, if not more, than going without, to find exactly what it is you're idolizing, you know?
Yeah, no,
that's, we are in an age where that's becoming more realized, let's just say, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you're doing, because you're kind of pioneering this entire thing, and I was going to ask you what was the impetus for you, like what made you start this entire exploration, but you said it from your childhood, but I still want to know.
Yeah.
But I think what you're doing is perhaps cracking that code, or like beginning the process of it, because without a social construct for something, we don't see it. So I remember in college, I learned something like people in Alaska have 5 words for snow, but we only have 2. So when I look at snow, I only see one of 2 things, but they actually see 5. So if you have a word, if there's a social construct for something, you then are capable of seeing it or identifying it. And so what Jesus Christ represents, I think, is something so wildly universal that most people, regardless of language barriers, it's such an innate human social construct, like goodness, forgiveness, love. But what you're doing, I think, is like taking that Rubik's Cube and perhaps creating a social construct that will help us actually create a new way, a new angle in to see it.
Yeah, I would, yes. Yes, I think that's the silver lining in all of this is that sort of humanizing component where the field becomes level, that there isn't anyone that is above anyone else. That doesn't diminish the important role of leadership, but I find that real leaders have a lot of humility, you know? I mean, my preferred leader, I'm not saying that all leaders have humility, but I think like the sort of truest ones, because they're not locked into a perspective. Right. They're actually a holistic sort of, they have a holistic lens, and that makes them really powerful, you know, because we are all human after all, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now is really the time for this whole shift. I think it's happening. Like that's what's happening on a global level, is like all the constructs that we had created for ourselves for so long are sort of being torn down, and we're having to rebuild and redefine what is important in life. And it's kind of what you're talking about. It's really interesting. I mean, Scott at one point showed me I can't even try and quote this, but there's a part in the Bible where no, I'm not going to try, but like, you know, with what's happening now, we took away sports, we took away entertainment, we took away all these things that were so iconic to us, you know? Mm-hmm. And now the things that are becoming most important are our families, our friends, the closest people, the art we're creating within the confines of our 4 walls. There's no concerts to go to right now. It doesn't matter how many people came to my last show, because we don't have a show now. And so it's really just, it's kind of doing what you're saying. It's kind of putting everyone on even ground, taking away all that hierarchy that existed even just 2 months ago.
Exactly. And I was watching a talk that my friend was giving, who's the founder of an organization called Artolution. And I actually shot a pilot for a doc series where we're developing about his work. But he works in refugee camps and with indigenous communities and poor communities all over the world. telling their stories and metabolizing their traumas in these massive adult girls. And he was talking about how these communities are isolated and on lockdown all the time, constantly, 100% of the time, in refugee camps and so on and so forth. And so this is for us a way to come down to earth. You know, there's people that are living like this all the time, and they're not waiting in lines at fancy Trader Joe's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really true. Now, Jen, I don't really know how Zoom works, but sorry, I'm putting on mute.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, we're still on Zoom if anybody wants to come to Zoom.
Now, Jen, as it turns out, that was a delivery. But what I see that he's drawing probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Are we going to show him or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Maybe never. I don't know.
Maybe never? Oh, that's tragic. It's so cool.
Oh, show the piece of art or show him?
Oh, the piece of art.
Oh, yeah. I don't know when he's going to complete it.
Okay. It's so cool.
But we'll definitely post it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool. This is our conversation in his channeling. Like, it's pretty, wow. That's crazy. It's so cool.
It's so cool.
It's amazing. So I guess we've touched on a lot. What are you looking forward to in this period? Like, do you feel like you've just scratched the surface of, you know, how deep you want to go into your creativity, your connection to that source that you were talking about, and just being playful and sort of minimizing the excess of your life? Like,
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's a part of me that's like hoping that I get at least another month of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think I've scratched the surface, but I also think that the effects of even the last month will be like life-changing in a lot of ways for me. But what I want to figure out how to do is how to basically continue connecting without connecting.
Mm-hmm.
So
you mean without physically connecting, or?
Yeah, without physically connecting. Also, you know what else? Okay, this whole thing I think is doing is it's empowering artists and non-artists or people that don't identify as artists, because there's so many things that we used to think we needed other people for, and it's teaching you that you don't necessarily. And so I'm finally spending the time learning my camera and learning properly how to edit and learning properly, like stuff that I normally just would wing. I'm like, oh no, it's cool. Like somebody else will help me or fix this. And
Zoom, learning Zoom.
For instance, Zoom. Yeah. And so I think we're going to come out of this a lot more empowered and a lot more evolved, and also, to be honest, a lot less materialistic. I think what most of us are learning are that so many of the things that we thought we needed, we don't, because we're still alive. Like it doesn't. My nails, actually, as it turns out, I'm such a better guitar player without them. Like, what was I thinking? And yeah, I think it's just so awesome and so refreshing. And that said, I am coming from a vantage point where, like, I really love where I live. I love my boyfriend. We're in such a good space together, and I love my art. But I have a lot of friends and family right now who aren't in that position. You know, like they're single and they're lonely and they're missing somebody else, or and that is a different experience.
Or they're sick. I mean, there's people.
I mean, yeah, or they're sick, or they're really, really strapped for cash.
Yeah.
And it's scary as hell. But the reality is that, like, most of us will live through this and will come out of it stronger. I don't think anybody will come out of this weaker than they were before. I think it's really, really trying. I think it's testing a lot of people's so many things. It's really asking you, where does your happiness come from? Where did you get it from? Because if it doesn't come from like somewhere in you, that's a fundamental problem, but that is what this whole thing is highlighting. And I talked to my mom and dad are really good examples of like opposite ends of the spectrum. My dad is like, he is like me. He's relishing every moment of this. He's like learning all these new skills and arts. He's like just enjoying $2 bottles of wine. Like it's just the best time ever. And my mom is bored, like plainly put, she's bored. And I think after the next couple of weeks, she's really going to have to discover a new hobby or like a new passion that's not something that she gained from the outside world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe the true icon is happiness.
Oh my God, it's all happiness.
And imagine if we made happiness, our own personal happiness, the icon. And that's what we're seeking.
Dude, that would be so valuable. I mean, that's the crutch of our existence as human beings, in my opinion, is like unhappiness, which is often rooted in insecurity or feelings of inferiority. I mean, like no war was ever started by somebody who was confident and happy with themselves. Like no fight, no lie, no theft was ever basically done by somebody who was like happy. And I think the massive misconception that we have is that the people that we deem icons are happy. It's the halo effect, which is like you see somebody who's beautiful, and so you also think they're nice because they have all these good things. So they must then be smart, and they must then be nice, and they must then be artistic. And like, of course, it's flabbergasting when like that beautiful girl on Instagram, you meet them in real life, and you're like, oh, such a different. This is very different for me, and so. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. What you just said is happiness, making happiness and self-fulfillment and like magic, personal magic, the icon.
Absolutely. And then maybe we wouldn't have to idolize. We could just appreciate. Because if you're truly, truly happy on the inside, maybe you don't actually have to idolize something outside. You can just understand that someone's gifted or has a craft or whatever. Yeah, this is super cool. So where can we like hear your music?
Well, right now I have a couple of songs out on Spotify under Charlie Taylor. And I'm gonna release another EP as soon as probably in the next couple of months called Sad Barbie. And it's cool.
Barbie's iconic.
Barbie is so iconic.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I wrote most of those songs during a time in my life when I was living in this really toxic, materialistic chapter. So many, basically, like, so many poisonous things were part of my regular everyday life. And I was sort of living this, like, plastic, simulation of life. And so I wrote all these songs during that time, and I haven't released them because I don't really identify with them anymore. Like, that's not who I am. But I also think it's my job to release them because I know there's a lot of girls still living that same life, that those songs might do something for them. So Scott is helping me. We're making all the visuals during this time. So for Sad Barbie, it's really cool. I have these plastic arms and I hold them, and so my arms look like really creepy and long, and so I have like part real and part prosthetics and plastics and stuff, and so we're going out into the fields and stuff and like making creepy visuals.
The way of the future.
Yes.
Smart human. Yeah, my producer, one of my partners in Toronto did a really cool Barbie also kind of installation situation. I have to find those images for you. Barbie is so iconic. She's like Jesus.
She really is.
Like, we need to put them together and really look into this.
Actually true. Like, it is. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm so into it. All right, cool. Well, I feel good. This was like a great sort of afternoon break, and I'm super grateful. And what is Celio doing?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I wish that people could see. Can people see? How does this work? Can you see of my house? Jen, thanks for putting this all together, and thanks for just keeping, like, all your art is always so inspirational to me because your art to me is always rooted in a place of just honesty and just raw, organic you. It's so you. Like, you've cracked that whole code, I believe, of giving a shit what other people think. I really think if there's anyone that's genuinely doing life for themselves, it's you, and it's really cool, and there should be more people like you. And I remember being really intimidated to meet you because Scott told me all about the movie that you guys had made and how like abstract and interesting you are as an artist. And so it's been really cool, and thank you for having me.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I definitely am on a journey for me, but I feel it's really the connective tissue as well of our like truest community, you know? How do we become authentic, our more authentic selves? And we can lead by example by sticking to our vision as artists, you know?
Yeah.
I think the more we do that, the more people we actually communicate with.
That's true. Oh, and Jen, let me tell you one last thing.
And I mean, we're kindred spirits in that way. I saw you perform.
Yes.
I think you're pretty real.
Thank you. Well, that's what I was going to say. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you one last theory, and probably your takeaway is going to be that I smoke marijuana for breakfast, and that's not true. So, okay. So
I will tell you what I do for breakfast.
Okay. So I believe a lot in electromagnetic therapy. Like they've been able to measure the waves of different cells. So certain viruses and bacteria literally have like a numerical value in terms of their electromagnetic field.
Like quantum physics. This is like quantum.
Yes. So yeah, they've been able to measure, and it's really interesting. So what I believe is that we all are vibrating at a certain vibration. Like there's an actual number associated with frequency. I believe, yes. Yeah. And I don't think we have a way to measure that yet, but one day I think that we will. Now, what I think soulmates are when somebody else is vibrating at pretty much the exact same number. And I really believe that you can see someone from across the room and you feel and I felt that with you, was like, we kind of, and in the same way, like you can sometimes be around someone who lowers your vibration because like they're operating at a lower frequency or a higher frequency, and like certain people kind of raise you up. And I also think, to further that theory, you can walk into a room and be like, oh, this isn't my vibe. And I think what that is like the general average of the vibrations are not, they're not copacetic with yours. And so you're just like kind of off balance.
Yeah, they are measuring voltages of energetic fields, actually. Like there's a lot going on we can talk about. Yes, we're very aligned, sister. This is super fun. Maybe you could channel this into a song and I can put some like visual art to it, and oh, there's Celio.
Hey, hello.
Hi.
Are you gonna show us the drawing?
Second time. Okay, I'm here. Okay, very. I say thank you. It's very nice today, and my friends say thank you. We have all my persons is becoming.
Whoa! You gotta post that.
Yes, this is. I try to I hunter energy today. I hunter today energy and becoming channelized or direct on the paper. I can't think in nothing about this, but I feel a very good energy. This is one mind. I read now. This is one mind is burn something, but burn something with the light and transfer the energy. And then we're talking about Jesus, I think so.
Yeah, Jesus.
And then is all Jesus look for us, and then is becoming a labyrinth, but and then maybe something to take freedom, and this is a very good freedom and put energy for everybody.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, I think that this is a good point that you make, Celio. Like within the restrictions of this stay-at-home order, we can really find a lot of liberation, you know, within ourselves, because we don't have to run around. And I think this is like a beautiful time to do that, because as Charlie talks about, we're then raising the frequency of our vibration. And if we're doing that, we're actually healing to everyone and everything. And that's how we can hold space for those really, really in the front line and really in the thick of it, and not feel guilty about our creativity and our joy, because they need it too, you know, they need it too.
Wow, we need courage and fighting for a beautiful, better world.
Yes,
I try to
right.
do the best. Then thank you everybody I can respond everybody because I focus and I'm inside in my labyrinth. But now I say thank you everybody and watch this beautiful talking show. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Your art is so beautiful. I want to post a photo of it if that's all right.
Yeah, send it to us so we can share. And thank you everyone that joined on Facebook. Sorry you had to see me the whole time. And everyone on Zoom. This was really, really, really cool. Really cool. I love you, Charlie. I love you, Celio. I love you, community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.